My motivation comes in the fact that we're protecting people and saving lives. My name is Steve Webb, and I have been in this business for a long time. I'm a police officer, I'm an educator, I'm a professor at SIU, and I just got back from Virginia Beach investigating the murder of 12 people in their courthouse. And if you want to truly be humbled by this issue that we're dealing with, particularly in today's pandemic times, talk to some of the families of some of the people that lost their lives, especially when they knew something was going on with this particular employee, and they knew it for a while. So if you think about your employees, you think about what you do, and you think about why you do it. Steve did a great job talking about your why. We're in a new world, and that's why I wrote the book, Education in a Violent World. Your workforce is different. These kids growing up with different experiences. And with this, maybe you saw me on some of the different television channels, news shows, discussing this new era of experience. How many of you grew up with social media? Yeah, we all are a part of social media's times now. We're dealing with millennials, and that's all they know. They can look up every single one of your companies, every single one of them today without coming here. Maybe that's why there's not very many people here. They can find out all about you without talking to you. These are the people that are going to be your workforce. These are the people that are going to be our teachers. These are the people that are going to be your employees. And while we hear about all of these terrible acts, these terrible violent things that are happening, we have to realize it's not going to end. Mental health is truly an issue, and the thing about it is now we have to all be cognizant that it's occurring every day. How many of you walked in here, into this room, and did your own threat assessment? One whole, there's 3. So what did you do? Did you check exits? Did you see that there's a ton of windows? Did you see the beautiful water and think, wow, beautiful spot? Did you look around? Did you think about what would happen if this was an area that could have had some type of violent act? I'm a trained Alice instructor, a level 2 instructor, which means it's like run, hide, fight on steroids. I don't want you to run. I don't want you to hide. I certainly don't want you to have to fight. That's the last thing that we want to do. As a police officer, the last thing that you want to do is have any type of violent episode. But that's what people hear about. That's what people think about whenever they think about some type of violent incident. What I'm trying to talk to you about is training your people how to identify specific threats and talk about it. These kids today, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to include you. They don't want to include their boss in some of their social events. Even though they may have some concerns, they just dismiss it. Virginia Tech, they dismissed it. Virginia Beach, they dismissed it. In many of our high school shootings, they dismissed all of the signs that there were things going on. So I'm going to talk about a few of those things to help you understand. When I went to Parkland and interviewed people over and over and over again, when I went to Columbine, Virginia Beach, Auburn, Illinois, Aurora, all of these places that have violence, I can't believe it happened here. In Parkland, this particular gentleman that I interviewed, he said, my kid goes to an adjoining school. It should have happened there. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, that's the poor area. That's the poor area. That's the slums. That's where we have violence every day. But no, it happened at Marjory Stoneman Douglas. Marjory Stoneman Douglas, where all the rich people lived, in Parkland. Wow, what a statement, right? What a statement that it should have happened in this area because it's poor. Folks, it happens everywhere. I see it everywhere. This workplace violence that we're dealing with now is just the microcosm of those types of events occurring and the fact that media displays it every single day. You probably heard about every single mass shooting. Every single one is played on the news. And they'll play it over and over and over again. But when it comes down to it, we are forced by OSHA regulation to train our employees. What kind of video are you sticking in front of them? What kind of training are you doing for your employees? And I'm not just talking about run, hide, fight. I am so sick of hearing about run, hide, fight and what you do after the event. Folks, if you have to run, hide, fight, it's too late. The event is occurring. It's too late. But it's sexy. It's sexy to talk about that. It's sexy to talk about what are you going to do when somebody comes in with an AR. I want to know what you're going to do if you start identifying some of these behaviors. Are you going to tell somebody? Are you going to talk to your HR? Are you going to talk to somebody? And if so, how do you get that information from today's youngsters, from the day's workers and tomorrow's workers? Are you truly prepared for what you're about to get? They define it. Any disruptive behavior that occurs at the work site, anything disruptive. We're not very disruptive in here. We're very nice. We're cordial to each other. And even though you're working, you feel safe. Does it make you feel safer to know that there is a police officer here? Does it make you feel safer to know that somebody has a weapon here? Well, that's great. But you are the actual weapon. Your eyes, your feelings. The brain it's what's called a triune brain. It has a survival area that tells you to just run, hide, fight. It has the emotional brain. Makes you cry. But it also has the thinking part of it. And if you wait until you have an incident, it's too late. The thinking part is already gone. We have a duty of care for our employees, a duty of care for the people in your care. These people these days, these millennials, these people coming into the workforce, these kids, these young people, they want to know that you care about them. In my session tomorrow, I'm going to talk a lot about the people that are coming up into your workforce today. Is this the resolve, the reputation, or more revenue? What's it going to do to your bottom line if your people are not dedicated and passionate to work with you? Notice I didn't say for you, to work with you to make things work. See, 25% of all the workplace violence, nobody talks about it. Just let it happen. It's just Jack being Jack. It's just Greg being Greg. Just Gary being Gary. Well, Gary being Gary Martin in Aurora, Illinois, told his co-workers he was going to kill them if they fired him. Told them, and they just laughed it off. Gary being Gary. Because nobody knew that was a sign that they were supposed to be looking at. Nobody knew that was posturing. Nobody knew that there were truly things going on in Gary's head that was leading him down this path. Nobody cared to think of what could have happened if they would have told somebody. And they could have prevented that. They could have prevented those 6 people from getting killed that day. There's 4 types of workplace violence, and I'll move through this pretty quickly. You can get my materials, you can give me a call, so I'm not going to go over and over and over this, but the FBI defines it. Type 1, they have no other connection with the workplace. Banks, convenience stores, other types of easy in, easy out places. Are you truly training them on what to do and how to identify people that are casing the area, surveilling the area? And if so, what are their protocols if they have that surveillance? Are they punished if it's wrong? These are your policies. This is part of the macro systems that I look into in terms of threat assessments. The type 2 kind of violence, customers, clients, patients. There's no more violence than in a healthcare situation, particularly home health care. If you provide that type of service for them, what kind of training are you providing for them? For them to understand that they can come to somebody with anything. Third type of violence, violence against your coworkers. One of the most prevalent types of violence, and they don't even know it's violence. They don't even know it's harassment. But you know what? You'll know it when you get the lawsuit. You'll know it very clearly, and then it's too late. It's like run, hide, fight, right? You're going to fight because you're going to be in court. So type 4, the last type, you've got a relationship with an employee. There's no more dangerous call for a police officer than a domestic violence or a domestic situation. No more dangerous. When we go to domestics, where I'm from, in very rural southern Illinois, right in the middle of the National Forest, Shawnee National Forest, where one of our biggest businesses is meth production in Shawnee National Forest, right? There's nothing there. When we have a domestic, we don't ever go alone. We always take a double. And we're not talking about a lot of homicides in our area, a lot of the more serious crime, because it's so rural. But that's one we take very seriously. Mass shootings, we see it, right? We see it on television. We see all of these news clippings about mass violence time and time again. What we're not talking about is the mental health. The suicide rates are climbing. They're through the roof, particularly of our young people, feeling the pressures of today. Are you teaching them the stressors? And I understand you've got all of these ideas of talking to your workers and making sure that they understand that you care about them. If you care about them, you'll understand that you don't just care about them during the workday. You care about them at all times, because cyberbullying, cyber attacks, again, I'm on some social media, but I mentioned something. I heard some kids talking the other day about a guy that had a birthday that they didn't know. Should they wish him a happy birthday or should they not wish him a happy birthday? And of course, me being the old fogey that I am, I said, take him off your friends list. If you don't know him, why is he your friend? Why is he seeing all of your stuff? Because he's hot. He's hot. That's just great. When I did I'm a trained cyber intelligence specialist, and when I did my training, it took me literally 10 minutes to make a fake profile. 10 minutes. Now, I don't know that this kid was fake, but I said, take him off your friends list, and they giggled. They said, this is not Facebook. This is not Facebook. We're not on Facebook. That's for you old people. That's where we're getting a lot of our information, correct? Social media, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok. If that information is not coming from you as their employer of what to do, what to look for, then they're getting it somewhere else. If you take a look at this video of a millennial that would be in the workforce if he hadn't committed one of the most egregious crimes in a school today. This is Dylan Klebold. You see the anger, the stress. It took him 6 takes to get this. They were making a fake video to put out. Back then, social media was very limited, but they were trying to put it out. That they were the saviors. That they were the gods, and of course they killed 12 people, or 12 kids and one teacher. The teacher was a friend of our family. He, along with Eric Harris, would have been in your workforce today. The issues that they were feeling was not the issues that they wanted to shoot up the school. It was actually supposed to be a bombing event. They had bombs built, and they were going to test their bombing skills, and that they didn't work, so they had to improvise. But their true problems was they were suicidal. They were both going to commit suicide together and go out in a blaze of glory, and they talked about it for over a year. The FBI went to their house a year prior to this to investigate things that they had been posting, things that they had been saying, things that they had been doing, and it was just Dylan being Dylan. That's just the way it is. But when it is the way it is, look at the 4 steps to disaster. 4 steps. 3 of those you can stop it. 3 of those you can prevent it. So stop just doing run, hide, fight everywhere you go. Stop just thinking that that is your workplace violence program. You have so many ways of which you can prevent this through the mental health of your workers that you don't have to get it to this point. I travel all over the U.S. talking to schools, talking to businesses, a lot of churches these days. Because you try to tell an 80-year-old lady that she's got to run, hide, or fight in church, she laughs and gives you a mint. Says, thank you for the advice. Not going to happen. But you start talking to her about where she sits, increasing her survivability, increasing her knowledge about what to look for when somebody comes in and they're displaying this posturing behavior, and you've just empowered her. You've just empowered them. That's what you're going to do with your employees. You're going to empower them to be your eyes and ears. So this directive has 2 primary areas, and this is where you get sued on. Did the employer recognize potential hazards in the workplace? Have you done a threat assessment? I had 3 or 4 that did a threat assessment when you walked in here. I do a threat assessment everywhere. That's the thing, is police and military already have situational awareness. Everywhere they walk, you'll see them sitting with their back to a door. I moved my chair over so my back was against a pillar because I don't like a window behind me. And now there's nothing but birds out there, right? We're right next to the bay. But it's something I think about all the time. What would increase my survivability if something happened? Because this is a very safe area, but it's a very tall building. Easily seen. Usually large buildings mean large crowds. They see a lot of cars in the parking lot. All of a sudden, it increases that likelihood of potential violence. Do we think about that type of thing when we're talking to our employees? Could you have minimized those hazards? And how did you do that? With just a little video? That's the thing you need to ask yourself, is what do you want your employees to have? How do you want them to know that you care about them, both during the workday and after? You can see here the settlements for this type of thing is just outrageous. God help us if it ever happens in one of your organizations. But time after time, they ask about the training and what you do to help these people, these young people that don't store information. They look it up, they Google it. They ask some lady's voice on an electronic device questions, and she talks back. That's what they do. That's your workforce today. How are you training them to identify when their heads are staring at a phone most of the time? How do you train them to identify what's around them if they're focusing on one device? You're going to be held liable if you negligently hire, train, or supervised. Think about your business and how you want it to grow. Think about some of the things Steve said about your why. As employers, I've been a school administrator for 27 years. 27 years. As an employer, you get people who are mad. You get people who are upset. You get people who are having a bad day. How do you identify when it's more than just a bad day? You know, this whole "he just snapped" thing is a lie. They don't just snap. Things are snapping over time. And we can see it, but we've got to see it together. And if they're staring at their phone all the time and not understanding what their senses are like, they're not going to see this world around you. You're not going to have that kind of help. And it's getting worse with young people today. Time after time in court. Will your training hold up in court? Simply showing a video or just me lecturing is not enough. There's got to be training on how to use this type of deal. Millennials, number 1, personal safety. Personal safety. And now we're talking about Gen Zers, and I'll do this during my presentation tomorrow. We're going to talk about this new workforce that's coming out. These Gen Zers and millennials have grown up being able to look up every school shooting, every mass shooting, every incident that increases the sensation. They're aware of all of it. because they're inundated with it. The question really is are you ready? I mean, are you prepared for this new workforce, for this new day? When I was researching for my book, many people said we just weren't prepared, but they were. You've probably got some protocols in place. You've probably got some run, hide, fight type stuff laying around somewhere in a binder. You've probably got some type of training that you provided to your employees. When it comes down to it, though, are you ready for when the day starts changing? Are you prepared to have your employees understand when behaviors could be leading towards violence? So think about this. As we move into tomorrow, think about what you're going to do in terms of making sure your employees know that you care about them. Because there are essentially 4 fundamentals of this violence prevention. There's a catalyst. Are you the catalyst? I've been irritated with some of my employees before as well. And when you evaluate, you should evaluate honestly. That's how you build character. That's how you build strength. Sometimes I'm the catalyst. Are you prepared to admit that? Are you prepared to oversee that? At Virginia Beach, that was part of the catalyst. In Aurora, Illinois, that was part of the catalyst. There was discipline being met with the employee. The thing about it is all of this evidence came out after the fact of things that they started seeing going downhill. And nobody wanted to act upon it. They didn't want to embarrass, they didn't want to ostracize, they didn't want to do this, they didn't want to do that. As Steve said, it was excuses. Excuse after excuse. We're not training them what to do without their face in a phone or their face in a computer. We're training them what to do after the fact. And that's why we're going to continue to see this mental health issue continually rise, because good training will save lives. Good training saves lives. And that's why I'm here in beautiful Pensacola today, to talk to you about good training, to talk to you about prevention training, and not just all of the sexy stuff, the run, hide, fight, which as an Alice instructor, I do that. But if you take a look at some of the things that we discuss, we look at this posturing here. This is power posturing. We see this in our business. We see this in stores. We might be in Walmart. It doesn't have to be just in the business. This can help us in individual safety. When you see some of these things that are going on, it has been shown time and time again in research, it could lead to violence. And in this particular incident, it did. Analyze these things with your staff. Teach them how to de-escalate. Because they don't want to know how to do it innately. They want to look it up. They want to Google it. Your body must be innate if you want to get to the thinking brain. It has to be innate in you how you do things without looking it up if you're truly going to keep people safe. So I've done this speech for corporations, for schools, for so many different schools are always looking for something new to try to help out in their situation. You start getting down to the suicide, the emotional distress, then you start preventing some of these things. Because I'm so sick of hearing, well, yeah, they did do some of that. Yeah, they did do some of that before it happened and nobody acted. Because we want to stay out of each other's business. Hell, for a whole year, we've been told to stay 6 feet away from each other and don't interact, right? That's a whole year of this mess. I'm telling you, you can identify these types of things, but you have to watch. You have to be able to look at it. So some of our scenario videos, and certainly, let's see if I can get this one. Some of the scenario videos, like this, you can see this lady was by herself. Richard Gilpin did a study with people that were incarcerated and asked them, how did you pick your targets? The number one, being alone. Number two was gait. And number 3 was that they just simply weren't looking for it. So you've heard wolves run in packs, right? Wolves run in packs. People who are not going to commit a crime don't necessarily run in packs. We teach how to identify, because as they were spreading out, that was an attack. When wolves run in packs, that's fine, they run, but when it's time to attack, they strategically and tactically start moving apart in order to be able to handle that. I'm sure somebody in here has been nervous putting groceries in the back of a vehicle in the middle of the night. Surely you looked around your car for that, or did you just go straight to your car and think, there's a security light here, I should be good, or there's security cameras. The security light is to help the security cameras identify you as you're taken, or something after the fact. Those are not to prevent what's getting ready to occur to you. These kids need to understand this. These young people that are coming into your workforce are so engrossed in their own little environment, and we're partly to blame for that, because with the pandemic, we've told them, stay away, which has increased their social media, which has increased their social emotional distress. But when it comes down to it, folks, it's just about being prepared, understanding that there's more to it than just simple response. I'll give you one quick story, and I won't go through all of this stuff again. You can talk to me at my booth if you'd like to. It's over there at Safe Secure Systems. The communication tactics is something that has to be taught. This hasn't been taught before, because we've always learned how to talk to each other, right? We know how to talk to each other. The communication tactics is when you see something, say something, you've heard those terms. Young people today don't want to get people in trouble. They don't want to get their coworker in trouble. They don't want to get somebody else in trouble. They may be overthinking it, right? They may be overthinking what's going on. Folks, it's very important. If you're going to increase your business, if you're going to grow your business, they have to understand that you care about them, not just during the day, but at all times. Because as they're putting their groceries into a car, why not have something there in their mind where they can innately understand that they need to look around the area before they do that? And I know I'm not telling you anything, but what you're doing right now is, for 13 days, I just traumatized you. I just traumatized you. So research suggests for 13 days, you're now going to start looking at exits. You're going to be looking around at people. You're going to be identifying behaviors. You're going to be identifying that person that's standing outside of Walmart or whatever, and looking to see if they're watching you, if that could be a potential violent individual. 13 days. You know what happens after that 13 days? We go back into routine. Research has shown time and time again, I've just traumatized you with some of these things that you need to be thinking about in your own business. You got ServPro going into all of these homes, sometimes individually. So I know what they do. Are there people truly trained to be able to go into somebody's home, particularly if there's a potential for violence? So I go through the social systems theory, and it's a really, really boring theory, but it's truly how we interact in our different systems. But when we do a threat assessment, some of you raised your hand that you looked around here for your threat assessment. You got to start with your drive-in. So when we do this, I go through all different types of areas before we finally get to your office. And again, people, I'm not here to motivate you to go out and be the best that you can be. I'm here to motivate you to understand your workers are different now. People that are coming to work for you are different because they had different experiences than what we had growing up. And I had to research very, very, very diligently, because I'm 52 years old. I didn't grow up in this time, but I see the changes. I see the effects of all of these experiences on these young people as they're coming into work. And it's going to be up to us to understand those changes and be able to adapt to those changes if you want to see your business grow, if you want to see these people taken care of, not just during the day and evening. And I'll leave you with this. You've got an opportunity. You've got an opportunity to possibly save somebody's life. At Marshall County High School, one of the individuals shot was a very good friend of mine. Actually, when I was coaching basketball, it was my cheerleading sponsor's son. So Mason Cosner was shot that day, but he lived. And when I called Krista to ask her how he was, I'd heard he was flown to Vanderbilt Hospital. And she said, Steve, a 1/4 inch difference, and we would have lost him. A 1/4 inch. That bullet is still in Mason's neck. And he was comeback player of the year in the state of Kentucky last year. Bullet's still there. But folks, you're that 1/4 inch difference in these young people that are coming to work for you right now. You're that 1/4 inch difference. I know you're going to be looking for profits. I know you're going to be looking for production. But you need to be identifying the world that they're coming from if you truly want to connect with your workers. So my name's Steve Webb. My book is here, and I think Catrice is going to give one of those books away. But you can purchase a book over here at my booth if you want to. It's not pleasant Sunday afternoon reading. I'll just go ahead and give you the caveat to that. So you had all that motivation from Steve, and now I've got you going, oh my God, where the hell's the exit? I got it. If you need me though, there's my number. Give me a call. If you want to talk more about this, that's fine. My booth is over on the left here, and I don't know about questions or answers, but surely I'm getting the kill sign by now. So thank you very much, everybody, and come join me if you want to.